What's up, everybody? Nate here from Out of the Basement, bringing you a brand new action figure review. Today from Mcfarlane Toys, we are taking a look at the DC Multiverse John Stewart animated Green Lantern. This is, of course, part of the first wave of Mcfarlane Toys, now that they have a hold of the DC license. I've also done a review for the comic book Batman, which you can check out right up there. But let's not waste any more time. We're going to go ahead, take a quick look at the package, and then we'll get him open, take a look at the accessories, and then the figure itself. So this is the new style packaging, which is pretty large. Honestly, don't know why the packaging is so big. There's so much empty space you can see down there. But it does have this nice window, so you can get a great look at the figure. On the side here, not a whole lot going on, just says Green Lantern. On the back, you can get a look at the trading card that's on the inside, part of the accessories. You can see some other figures that are coming out. And I also like that it shows you what the image is actually from on the side here. That's pretty neat. On the side here, you can see Justice League Green Lantern. On the bottom, not a whole lot going on. On the top, not a whole lot. So let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at his accessories. And of course, first things first, he comes with a base and his trading card that are stuck in the backdrop of the packaging like this. I absolutely hate when companies do packaging like this because you got to tear up this nice looking backdrop just to get these things out. But that's your standard one peg Mcfarlane base, but now it has the DC logo on it. And the trading card is neat, but in all honesty, who's really buying these for these trading cards? Okay, so for accessories, he comes with a giant translucent plastic gun, which looks pretty neat. I'm always a sucker for translucent plastic, especially green plastic. And the sculpt work is decent. I mean, you can tell it's some sort of weird futuristic gun type deal. So I like it. You know, there's not really a whole lot to say about it. There's no paint or anything on it. The details are all right. Now, my problem with this and his other accessory, which again is this little green visor right here, and I'll show you how these work with the figure, and that's probably my first issue with this Green Lantern, unfortunately. So here we are with John and his accessories, and I just can't for the life of me. The visor fits on somehow. It seems like it's too small for his head, so you really have to try and force it to get it to sit on his face. And it looks all right, I guess. I'm not particularly crazy about the way this looks. It's all right. It's not the best, and I don't really like the way you have to fit it on his head. And same thing with the gun. You got to put it on his fist, but it doesn't really stay there all that well, especially because it's just you literally slotting his fist in. So you pretty much have to keep the gun at some sort of upper angle, otherwise it's just going to fall right off, which is a little bit disappointing, considering it's even hard to get him into a position to where he looks like he's going to, you know, be shooting it at something. So that's a little disappointing. I feel like they could have made this a little bit better of an accessory, have a better fit around his hand, because as is, I just think it's kind of pointless unless you want to have him holding it in an upwards direction. So for the accessories, they're not bad, but honestly, I think I'm just probably going to display him without either of them, which is typically not a good thing. You'd at least hope to pose a figure with one of their accessories, but for this one, I'm going to say the accessories are just all right. All right, so now let's take a close look at John here. You can see that overall, I think the figure does look pretty good, although right off the bat, you'll notice that if you look at the comparison image on the back here and the figure itself, the greens are incorrect. The greens are definitely much more darker based on that image, which is what this figure is supposed to be based on. So I can definitely see that bothering some people, but for me, I do like this sort of neon green look of Green Lantern. I know it's not accurate, but I still don't think it looks all that bad. And what I do really enjoy is John's head sculpt here, which looks absolutely fantastic. And the paint details and everything on it are super clean. I don't think that could have turned out any better. And yeah, it's just a damn good head. In my mind, it looks exactly like the Jon Stewart I remember from the old Justice League animated cartoons. Of course, you've probably noticed the shoulders by now having this weird separation of black, which doesn't make too much sense when you think about it. I don't know why they just didn't paint there, because there is no break in the green in the costume. So you kind of have to, if you wanted to make it look like there's not too much of a break, you'd have to set his arms up in really weird positions, which just doesn't seem right. And you can kind of fit that little floating piece in there because the butterfly joint piece is separate. So you can work it a little bit and reduce it some, but again, you're still gonna have his arms out something like this. So again, that's something that's kind of weird, and I feel like there's definitely could have been a better way to execute this design without breaking up the green at the top. It's a little minor detail that seems to be the make or break for this figure for some people, but I'm just not too upset by it. It is a little distracting, but once you get this guy into a good pose and you factor in all the other decent stuff about this figure, it's really not that big of a deal. So going back in, you can see that the white around the lantern logo is painted pretty well, except for if you look at it from the side here, you can see where the paint definitely does get a little fuzzy. And on the shoulders, that paint is also pretty good. And I do like the contrasting greens with the black of the suit plastic. And I like the sculpted details on here, very minor stuff, but just gives it that little bit extra detail. You can see on his fist, you can just barely make out the Green Lantern insignia. It's not sculpted in there very well, but not that that's too surprising. This figure is not particularly big, and for the price, you can't really expect super ultra detailed stuff like that. And then moving down on the figure, you can see he has those really tiny legs, the stylized animated look, which I do not mind, and so far I haven't had too much trouble getting him to stand up, even in some more interesting poses. And then the feet is just more of the same, the green boots. Get a look at the toe articulation there. This all looks pretty good, although these big thick ball joints definitely do look a little goofy with how tiny Green Lantern's ankles are. So overall, the details on this guy are, for the most part, pretty good. Yes, the paint is the wrong color, and some of the joints are a little unsightly, but overall, I think once you get this guy into a decent pose, he's going to look great. But I even think he looks pretty good just standing here vanilla. So now let's go ahead and take a look at Green Lantern's articulation. He, of course, can look up just a little bit, and he can look down some. Same thing with the other Batman figure. The back of the head is clearly a lot softer. It's a softer plastic than the front of the head so that you can get a little bit more range out of it. But he still doesn't have a ton. Of course, he can look side to side, all the way around, but the up and down is really not that much. For the arms, they can go all the way up, and of course they do rotate forward and backwards thanks to the butterfly joint. The single jointed elbows give you a little bit less than 90 degrees. Or actually, this bicep swivel's a lot more free than the other one, so that one must just be a little stuck. So yeah, that actually works pretty well. And again, on the Mcfarlane figures, their joints, you can swivel them independently of the actual piece of the figure, so you can make the wrist go up and down, and then also just pivot that, do one of those, and then you can get it side to side as well. So I do like that. I like that you have the option to choose your own wrist joint. The crunch is not particularly great. He can go forward ever so slightly, but he can go back pretty far. He does also have he has the upper diaphragm joint right here, and then also the lower one at the base of the body. And this piece right here for the trunks is separate soft plastic, so when you go to kick out with the leg, you can still get a decent range of motion, and this will not hinder the articulation. The double jointed knee works really well. And then down here, the feet can move down pretty far and up pretty far, and you also get a really huge toe pivot. So now we're going to go ahead and compare him to some Marvel Legends, some other DC figures, some NECA stuff, so you can see how he scales. Alright, here he is next to the PS4 Marvel Legends Spider-Man and the Black Series Royal Guard. the Mcfarlane comic book Batman, and the NECA Jungle Hunter Predator. And finally, next to the Mezco Ascending Knight Batman and the old DC SDCC Swamp Thing. So overall, I think this figure is still pretty good. Yes, it definitely has a couple flaws to it. The paint apps could have been a little bit better. They could have figured out a better way to hide the butterfly joints. But overall, I think for the price and what you get out of this figure, it's really not that bad. The accessories, of course, are disappointing as well. I think for a mostly accurate animated style Green Lantern, this figure is going to fit right in. I don't have any of the older DC animated figures, nor did I pick up the new animated Superman or Batman, but with how much I did end up liking this guy, I think I might just have to take the plunge on the other animated figures now as well. So of course I pass the question off to you. What do you guys think of this figure? Are you going to pick it up? Let me know in the comments down below. I will be having some more DC Multiverse reviews in the future. And of course, if you enjoyed my review, don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new. We're always talking about action figures, movies, and Blu-rays. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Nate, and I will see you guys next time.